Now, Joe Biden's border catastrophe is worsening by the hour. Migrant facilities are overwhelmed. Child abuse allegations inside these facilities prompting an investigation inside of Texas. Biden, Harris, nowhere to be found. Imagine Democrats, the media mob's reaction if this crisis was happening under President Trump. Those kids in cages were Donald Trump's cages. And also breaking tonight, we're now learning that Biden's border czar is stepping down amid these massive failures. I thought Kamala Harris was the border czar. By the way, look at this photo obtained by Lara Logan showing a cache of weapons in a stash house near the border. Now, our own Sarah Carter last night spoke to migrant families about their journey to the U.S. and the southern border. Take a look.
He's saying that he feels very, very ill right now. He may have asthma. He says he's not feeling that well. He's coming here with his daughters. They're from Honduras. They are, obviously, you can tell they've been through a lot. Right now, Border Patrol is taking care of this. We have some people on the way here. Apparently, there were two large groups. This group was separated from another group. There are children here as young as 3, 4 years old, and, of course, adults in this group. And I think this group had a really rough time. I would not be surprised that they have been through a lot, according to the people that I spoke with. And I'm talking about smugglers, coyotes, the elements, being out here with their children, and also being sick.
Sarah Carter joins us now. I want you to expand on that interview, number one. And number two, this cache of weapons now that we see is beyond dangerous, and it shows a level of absolute lawlessness that, we would expect from these cartels, human traffickers, drug traffickers.
Yeah, Sean, it was devastating. We spent the entire night into the early morning hours, roughly around 2 a.m. when we wrapped up, and people were pouring across the border. The tragedy there was that father was very, very ill. His oxygen levels dropped to about 72%. He was immediately taken by National Border Patrol Council Vice President Chris Cabrera to the facility. Him and his family were loaded up. He could have had COVID. We don't know. Everybody suspects anything out here. It could have been anything else. But he was very, very ill and immediately taken to an emergency facility. We saw other children that were sick, that were dehydrated, children that were crying. There was a little girl that apparently was his daughter, allegedly his daughter, that was crying, and she was telling me, she's only 6 years old, and she was saying to me, I'm so scared, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. And when you see this type of humanitarian crisis, it's much different than just when you're there than seeing it on television. You really understand the toll that this is taking, not only on the people that are crossing, but on the American people and on our law enforcement officials. And you mentioned the stash of weapons that Lara Logan broke. I was just talking to a Texas Department of Public Safety officer. They were talking about a stash of AR-15 rifles that they intercepted as well here moving towards Mexico. So we see the crisscross back and forth. The drug cartels are at their height right now. They are fighting each other. You got Nuevo Generacion, which is one of the biggest and newest drug cartels in Mexico, fighting Sinaloa. And guess what they're fighting for, Sean? They're fighting for our territory. They're fighting for our highway systems coming into the United States. And the people in the middle that are the pawns are these children and these migrants and the American people and the law enforcement officers. I spoke last night as well with the delegation that was at the border, Congressman Devin Nunes, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, as well as Steve Scalise, the House Whip, who led the delegation to the border where we were at. Take a listen to what they had to say.
What is your biggest concern right now as far as the national security issues related to the border, considering we saw 2 men from Yemen on the terror watch list? Well,
in this particular area, this Rio Grande Valley, this is an area where a lot of the children are coming, a lot of the families are coming. And so the danger in this area would be that they're overloading the Border Patrol from doing their job. Now, the Texas governor has put in some National Guard and brought in also local law enforcement, state law enforcement to try to beef that up. But it's really, if you overload the Border Patrol, then it makes it easier for the bad guys to sneak through. So as you see these families that are coming across with young children, we don't know who's sneaking through the rest of these areas.
If you had a message for President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, what would that be?
Well, we're waiting for Harris to get here. Supposedly she's in charge of this, and I don't think she's been here.
Would you call this a crisis?
This is more than a crisis. Yeah, it's a catastrophe.
What do you hope will change? What are you going to demand of the Biden administration?
We're demanding that the Biden administration reverse this failed policy. This is a crisis that was exclusively created by Joe Biden's actions, and he can reverse it tomorrow. This isn't some law that Congress passed. This is something Joe Biden did the day he became president. He was telegraphing it before he took the oath of office, but now you can see the result of it.
Sean, Governor Greg Abbott, as well as, members of the law enforcement community here in Texas, even talking about the Texas Marshals, want access to the people that are crossing the river. The federal government, Washington, D.C., the administration is prohibiting them from speaking to these folks. It's very important, they say, that they have access to the children, especially with the accusations of sexual abuse inside some of the camps, as well as their dealings with cartel members and smugglers. They know that these operations are lengthy, they're ongoing. These cartel members and human smuggling operations are making millions of dollars a day, and the people of Texas are suffering. Remember, this is the taxpayer dollars that are being dumped into all of these policies and projects here in Texas, as well as across the United States, just to handle the overflow, and they are expecting this to be in the millions. We're looking at more than 120,000 children plus this year alone.
Yeah. And by the way, just as total numbers for March, last year 31,000, this year almost 200,000. That's how dramatic a difference is. Right. Now we've got the gangs of cartels, the cache of weapons, on top of allegations of child rape, child abuse, inhumane conditions for children. It's unbelievable. And they're tone deaf. They don't want to hear it. They don't hear no evil, see no evil. Sarah, thank you.